Before you change how the world sees you, you must first understand how you see yourself. Every day we move through life, often unnoticed, often misunderstood, not because others fail to see us, but because we fail to project who we truly are. There is a moment, a single action that can shift the perception of everyone around you, but that transformation, it does not begin on the outside, it starts within, through intention, through discipline, through a decision to rise above who you were yesterday. Just once, if you align your actions with clarity, with courage, and with purpose, people will never look at you the same way again, because they won't just see you, they will see your energy, your focus, your presence, and that is unforgettable. In life, we often seek recognition. We want to be acknowledged, respected, and seen for who we are. But the truth is, no one truly sees you until you make a decision to reveal the version of yourself that is worth seeing. Not through words, not through superficial achievements, but through action, through one decisive moment that comes from deep understanding of who you are and what you stand for. You see, most people walk through this world reacting to expectations, to opinions, to pressures that were never theirs to carry. In doing so, they lose their essence, they blend in, they become a shadow, a reflection of others, not a reflection of their true self. If you continue to operate from that place, no one will ever see your uniqueness, because you have not yet allowed it to rise. There comes a point in a person's life when something shifts. It is not loud. It is not dramatic. It is quiet. It is subtle, but it is powerful. It is a single moment of clarity where you realize that if you continue to live passively, you will never command the presence or the respect you seek. This realization can come from pain, from disappointment, from being overlooked again and again, or it can come from silence, from time spent in stillness, in deep reflection. Whatever the source, it births a powerful truth, that transformation is not something given to you. It is something you choose. When you make this choice, it will not feel like an explosion. It will feel like an alignment. You will feel yourself begin to move differently. You will walk with more purpose. You will speak less but with greater clarity. You will stop chasing approval because you will begin to recognize your own worth. This shift, this one internal decision, will make people around you pause. They may not understand it at first, but they will feel it. Your energy will change, and energy speaks louder than words. There is a difference between confidence and presence. Confidence can be built through repetition and knowledge. Presence, however, is built through self-awareness and stillness. It is not about being the loudest voice in the room. It is about carrying yourself in such a way that others listen when you speak. They feel your discipline without you saying a word. That is power, not the power to control others, but the power to master yourself. But you cannot fake this. If your actions are not aligned with your inner values, people will sense it. The world does not respond to image, it responds to authenticity. If you want to be seen differently, you must first live differently. The change must be real, and it must be rooted in something deeper than ego. It must be rooted in principle, discipline, stillness. Intention, that one thing that makes people never see you the same. It is not a magic trick. It is not an act of performance. It is a moment when your behavior becomes a mirror of your highest standard. Maybe it's when you wake up before the sun and train your body and your mind before the world even moves. Maybe it's when you stop complaining and start taking responsibility for every emotion, every action, every outcome in your life. Maybe it's when you walk away from what is comfortable and easy and instead choose what is right, even when no one is watching. The truth is, most people will never do this because it is hard, because it is lonely, because it requires you to confront yourself, your habits, your fears, your laziness. But those who do, those who decide even once to step into a higher version of themselves with full presence, become unforgettable. Not because they tried to be seen, but because they became someone worth seeing. This is not about impressing others. It is about expressing what has always been inside you, buried under layers of hesitation, excuses, and distractions. When you peel those layers away and act from a place of alignment and inner strength, the world around you begins to respond, not immediately, but inevitably. You begin to carry a different weight, a different gravity. And without trying, you become the one who inspires silently, the one who walks into a room and shifts its atmosphere, the one whose life is the proof, not the speech. There is a moment when you stop seeking validation from the outside and begin to build a foundation from within. That moment marks the beginning of real transformation, because until you find stillness within yourself, every opinion, every reaction, every judgment from others becomes a disturbance, and a disturbed mind cannot lead. It cannot create, it cannot grow. To be truly seen, to be respected not for what you say, but for what you are, you must learn to remove the noise of fear, the noise of doubt, the noise of expectation. That silence is not empty, it is full of awareness. It is where you begin to see yourself clearly, without ego, without shame, without pretense. When you are honest with yourself, brutally honest, you begin to see what has held you back. You recognize the excuses you have repeated so many times that they have become your identity. You see how much energy you have wasted trying to fit in, trying to prove, trying to impress. And in that awareness, you find something powerful: choice. The choice to no longer live for the image, but for the essence of who you are when there is nothing left to hide behind. That is where the real work begins. Discipline is not about punishment. It is about alignment. It is the bridge between who you are and who you could be. When you decide to live with discipline, you are telling yourself, I am no longer available for mediocrity. You begin to treat your time as sacred. You stop allowing temporary emotions to make permanent decisions. You train your body not just for strength, but for endurance. You train your mind not just for knowledge, but for clarity. And slowly, day by day, you begin to earn your own respect. That is the respect that truly matters, because when you respect yourself, the need for others to approve becomes irrelevant. You cannot change how people see you until you change how you carry yourself. And you cannot carry yourself with presence until you carry yourself with purpose. That purpose does not need to be loud. It does not need to be declared, but it must be felt by you in everything you do. From the way you speak to the way you move to the way you handle challenge and success, everything becomes a reflection of your inner discipline. That is what people notice, not your clothes, not your status, but your energy, your consistency, your quiet strength. There is a type of person who walks into a room and instantly shifts the atmosphere, not because of arrogance, but because of clarity. They know who they are. They know what they stand for, and they do not waver. That type of person is rare, and they are remembered not for their words, but for their presence. That presence is earned through years of doing what is difficult when no one is watching, through waking up when it is easier to sleep, through practicing silence when it is easier to speak, through showing up when no one asked you to. These are not actions for recognition. These are acts of self-respect. Most people want to be seen, but are not willing to be different. They want to stand out, but they behave exactly like everyone else. The moment you begin to truly live by principle, you will become different. And not everyone will understand you. Some will be confused. Some will feel uncomfortable, but that is not your burden to carry, because you are not here to be understood by everyone. You are here to be in alignment with yourself. And that alignment will naturally attract what is right for you and repel what is not. You must ask yourself daily, am I acting out of fear or out of clarity? Is my behavior guided by who I truly am, or by who I am afraid to disappoint? When the answer becomes clear, your life begins to take shape. You waste less energy on distraction. You stop chasing things that drain you. You begin to make space for growth, for depth, for mastery. The outer world may not notice this shift immediately, but they will feel it, because presence, once cultivated, cannot be ignored. You can either spend your life explaining who you are, or you can become someone so rooted, so intentional, that your actions make words unnecessary. This is not about being seen as great. It is about becoming someone who does not need to be seen at all, because greatness, when authentic, reveals itself without announcement. It speaks in how you stand, in how you endure, in how you carry your silence as strongly as your speech. There is something powerful about a person who no longer needs to announce their intentions. They move differently, not because they seek attention, but because they have understood that transformation begins in the unseen. What you do when no one is watching becomes the foundation of how the world will eventually see you. In every action taken in solitude, you are either building or breaking the trust you have with yourself. That trust becomes your confidence, and that confidence, when rooted in discipline and awareness, becomes a silent force. People may not notice the first time you say no to distraction. They may not notice the morning you rise earlier than usual, or the moment you choose the harder path, the uncomfortable conversation, the delayed gratification. But these moments compound. They begin to shape your posture, your tone, your presence, and eventually people begin to feel that something has changed, not because you told them, but because you no longer react in the same way. You no longer seek approval from places that once fed your insecurity. You no longer shrink to make others comfortable. You have grown, and real growth does not need to explain itself. This change is not always comfortable. There will be resistance, not just from the world, but from within. Old patterns will try to pull you back, comfort will tempt you, doubt will whisper familiar lies. But if you stay rooted in your practice, in your daily commitment to improvement, those voices grow quiet. They lose their power when you stop feeding them your attention. You begin to see that every decision, no matter how small, is either a step forward or a return to what you said you no longer wanted to be. That awareness is a responsibility. It requires you to show up even when motivation fades, to act not from emotion but from principle, to do this once, this act of clarity, of decisive alignment with your highest values. It will change how others perceive you. But more importantly, it will change how you perceive yourself. You will start to see yourself as capable, as trustworthy, as someone who follows through. This internal shift is the beginning of true leadership. Because to lead others, even indirectly, you must first lead yourself. And that begins by doing what needs to be done, whether or not it is seen, whether or not it is praised. The mistake many make is waiting for the right time, the right feeling, the perfect condition. But clarity comes through movement, discipline is forged in action, and self-respect is built by honoring your own word. If you say you are going to do something, do it, not for the result, not for the recognition, but because each time you follow through, you reinforce a deeper belief that you are not controlled by your impulses, but guided by your intention. This is how people begin to notice, not because you shouted louder, not because you changed how you looked, but because your presence is no longer diluted by inconsistency. You are no longer at war with yourself. You are no longer scattered, chasing 100 things at once. There is now a stillness in your movement, a sense of purpose in your silence, and that stillness draws attention not because it demands it, but because it commands it, quietly, naturally. What happens next is not something you control. You cannot force others to see you differently, but you can become someone who moves with so much intention that people have no choice but to pause, to observe, to feel the shift in your energy. That feeling speaks louder than words ever could. It becomes your presence, and your presence, when grounded in discipline and authenticity, becomes impossible to ignore. There is a moment when you begin to realize that not everyone is supposed to understand your path. Not everyone will see the effort you are putting in, the sacrifices you are making, or the internal battles you are quietly fighting. And that is exactly how it is meant to be. Growth, at its deepest level, is not about showing the world who you are becoming. It is about becoming so rooted in your journey that even when no one sees, you continue. Even when no one applauds, you persist. Even when doubt surrounds you, you remain steady, because you are no longer moved by external validation. You are moved by inner alignment. There is a type of strength that is not loud. It does not need to be recognized. It does not wear a mask. It does not perform. It simply exists. This strength is built from struggle, from solitude, from self-reflection. It is built by doing the difficult thing over and over again until it becomes your nature. Most people wait for motivation to push them forward, but those who transform understand something different, that discipline is stronger than motivation. That silence can be more powerful than speech, that the unseen effort matters more than the visible result. When you change on the inside, your environment begins to react. Some people will distance themselves. Not because you did something wrong, but because your presence is now a mirror. It reflects their own lack of discipline, their own fear, their own comfort. Others may be drawn to you, not because of charm or charisma, but because they feel your clarity. They feel your focus. They feel the stillness behind your actions. This is not something you can fake. It is not something you can create overnight. It is cultivated through consistency, through repetition, through self-awareness. To be seen differently, you must act differently. Not just once, but repeatedly, and not for show, but for truth. Your truth. That truth must be strong enough to carry you through the discomfort. It must be strong enough to carry you through rejection, through failure, through moments of isolation. The deeper your roots go, the less you are shaken by the wind. That is the nature of inner strength. It grows quietly, but when it is tested, it reveals itself in full. Many will not understand why you no longer engage in the same habits, why you no longer respond the same way, why your priorities have shifted. You owe them no explanation. Your life is your message. Your behavior speaks for you. What you choose to pursue, what you choose to walk away from, what you choose to tolerate, these are all reflections of your inner world. And when that inner world becomes calm, focused, and disciplined, your outer world begins to reflect it in ways that require no words. People often ask how to change their image, how to be seen in a new light. But the question is not how others see you. The real question is how you see yourself when you are alone, when you are challenged, when everything is stripped away. That version of you, the one that remains when nothing else is left, is the one the world eventually recognizes. Not because you ask them to, but because your energy cannot be denied. The shift happens slowly, one decision at a time, one habit replaced, one temptation resisted, one promise kept, and with each step, your identity begins to evolve. You stop trying to impress and start trying to improve. You stop rushing and begin to refine. You stop performing and begin to live. That transformation is not loud, but it is lasting. It stays with you. It becomes part of your movement, your tone, your presence. When others see this shift, they may not be able to explain what has changed, but they will feel it. They will sense the boundary you now carry, the depth you now hold, the stability in your eyes. And they will never see you the same again. Transformation does not require noise. It does not require an audience. It begins with one decision, made in silence, carried through with discipline, and reinforced by action. That one choice to no longer live as a shadow of your potential, but to rise and become a full expression of who you are meant to be. When you begin to walk with clarity, when your actions reflect your deepest values, the world takes notice, not immediately, but inevitably. You do not need to force anyone to see you differently. You only need to become someone who lives differently. Let your focus speak. Let your presence speak. Let your life speak. And when it does, the people around you will not just see a change. They will feel a shift. Because the greatest impact is not made by what you show, but by what you embody. Do it once, do it fully, and you will never be seen the same again. Not because you asked to be seen, but because you became undeniable.